So, hello there, and welcome to day 26 of the Lexical Lab Summer School 2019 series of video diaries. Today I've been working with my advanced proficiency level English Boost class, and the vast majority of the students in the class are actually language teachers themselves. And I know from my own experience of being a teacher whilst also being a language student, how difficult language teachers are to teach. I know that when I'm in a classroom as a teacher, trying to learn a foreign language, of course I'm trying to pay attention to the teacher and I'm trying to practice the language that I'm learning and focus on what the teacher wants me to do. But inevitably, there's always a little bit in the back of my head that's also analysing what the teacher's doing, thinking, why are you doing it like this? I wouldn't do it like that, I'd do it this way. Possibly because of the fact that so many of my students in the advanced group are teachers themselves, we end up talking about teaching quite a lot, as well as just talking about language and about the students' lives. And in the break time today, we got talking over a cup of coffee, and a couple of the students were asking me about things I wish I'd known when I was a much younger teacher. Or I guess the other way you could think about this is things that I would tell a teacher who's starting out on their teaching journey at the moment. And after thinking about it for a minute or two, I realised that maybe the single biggest thing that I would say to young teachers starting out, the single biggest thing that I wish I'd known when I was younger, is not only that it's okay to talk to your students, but it's really, really important to actually talk to your students as real people. Yeah? When I first started, I think, I spent a lot of time in the classroom getting my students to do speaking activities, speaking games, grammar practice activities. A lot of the speaking was basically controlled practice of grammar, or there was speaking to practice pronunciation. Could they say 3 trees, that kind of thing. Possibly some of the speaking was just kind of fluency activities, but again, even those activities weren't really real speaking on part of the students. They were things like, create a radio advertisement or solve an imaginary problem on a desert island or whatever. And it took me many years, I think, as a teacher to realise that you could just sit and talk to your students and find out about them. And I think a lot of the time when I was learning languages myself, the idea was that the language is here, the students were here, and the students had to come to the language. I think increasingly, the longer I teach, I sort of think, okay, the students are here, the language is here, how can I bring the language to the students? And obviously the main way that you do that is by talking to your students, by engaging them, by getting them to talk about things that are personally meaningful for them. Yesterday in class we were talking about books that meant a lot to you when you were a child, books that had a huge influence on you as a teenager. We were talking about films you've seen that you'd describe as being harrowing or gripping, and all of this involved students' own lives and experiences. The other thing that I wish I'd known as a younger teacher was that whilst you're doing this kind of chatting and talking, you can also be using the student output to create input for the whole class. So what I was doing was listening to things students were talking about and thinking of ways to say those things better, thinking of how I would have said what they were trying to say, and getting some of this language on the board, so that when we finish the individual speaking slots or the personal speaking slots, we can look at the board work and we can see some of the things that students were trying to say. I'll post underneath this video a couple of bits of board work from yesterday's class so that you get an idea of how this talk was turned into input that was useful for the whole class. Thanks very much for watching.